Hello and welcome to Rotted Reviews, and today we're opening up the sixth door of the Advent calendar of Christmas horror movies 2021. And that door reveals the 2016 movie, The 12 Slays of Christmas. So this is a Christmas horror anthology made up of 12 segments, along with what I guess could loosely be called the binding storyline. And from what I can tell, the genesis of this started out as a Facebook post put out in around October 2015 or so from Body Bag Films, making an open call for people to submit their short Christmas horror films. And that all seemed to kind of get spackled together haphazardly and turned into what we now know as this movie, which was then distributed by Troma, and honestly, it hasn't really had a whole lot of traction since. You know what? For good reason. This was terrible. This was terrible all around. It was offensively terrible, and it was terribly offensive. The binding storyline was pretty much a guy in a cheap Santa suit introducing each film that seemed to be filmed with Junior's first camcorder and lighting blowouts galore. It was just absolutely gone awful on every technical and performative sense. And it didn't even really introduce the films. It was all just kind of generic. It was making comments about the previous entries, but nothing specific. It honestly could have simply been just copy, paste, no matter what. It didn't matter the order. He would say something like, well, that sure was a short one. Here's the next film. Okay, I guess. And as far as the shorts themselves go, there's really nothing remarkable about any of them. I hate ragging on it so much because it really does kind of look like just an open call for people to submit their work and not a whole lot of money or glory changing hands, just, for love of the game kind of. But that still doesn't excuse the terrible quality of just about every entry here. It's one of those things where they're just boring for the most part. If you have 5 minutes of your segment and you're eating up 3 minutes of it in B-roll showing an introductory character just walking, where's the rest? Short films, by their very nature, are typically less plot-based and more just concept-based. If you have an idea for a good jump scare or a good little creepy moment and so forth, that really wouldn't work as a feature film because, it's just, honestly, just the concept, then short films are perfect for this. The Lights Out short is a great example of one done well. Every single one of these 12 shorts, however, are great examples of how not to make a film. Bad storylines, bad characters, bad concepts, terrible editing, odd color choices, barely picked up audio and some dialogue while also having some Foley sound effects added that blow your eardrums out at the same time. Odd, weird music choices. The whole thing just felt so amateurish and awful. And then as far as a compilation goes, there is a little bit of an art to the mixtape kind of thing going on there. So when you wind up with having segments that are just less than a minute long and then pairing them up with another segment that's almost 20 minutes long, it just feels kind of odd. It would be kind of one thing to have an open call and then give some criteria so that it fits the build and the structure of what you're really wanting to compile, and then another to just slap together whatever you're given. There was even a claymation stop motion kind of film within this that I don't understand. It really made no sense. I don't get any of these. Either they were just really, really poor concepts of, somebody talking to somebody off camera and you can hear their voice responding, but of course they're dead, or comeuppance tales that you can see coming a mile away that are so poorly edited that there's no shock value, no jump value, no nothing to actually bring that concept into any kind of interesting fashion. Instead, it just kind of plops itself down on the table like a wet pile of mashed potatoes, and then the segment's over. Cue Santa Claus saying, well, that sure was a short one. Well, let's get to the next one. I would rather be kidnapped in the middle of the night, bag put over my head, tossed into a van drives out to the middle of the Mojave Desert where I'm dumped, naked, and trying to make my way to civilization before I succumb to the elements, and before the van drives off, it leaves behind a case of prunes and a couple of bottles of salt water as a big fuck you, than to watch this movie again. That being said, still wasn't the worst I've ever seen. So thank you very much for joining me here today as I took a look at the 2016 movie, The 12 Slays of Christmas. I look forward to seeing you on my next review. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.